Hello and welcome everyone to the Dev Q&A. My name is HiRezPrettyHair, joining by HiRezDrybear. We're here to answer all of your questions about the upcoming patches, Season 1 specifically. Drybear, why don't you break it down a little bit, what we've talked about in the last one, kind of what's happened, and what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so welcome aboard. We're here for another live Q&A session. We're going to be talking a little bit about the process and where we ended up with Season 1. So obviously, you guys, for those of you who were around last few weeks ago, we talked about the first round of Season 1, kind of get feels from the community, from the competitive teams, from people internally kind of talking about that. So obviously, we set out to solve several goals and several issues that exist in Paladins now, which is, you know, we want to make gold a lot more meaningful. We want to make radiant chests a lot more meaningful. We want to make sure that the progression for each character is a lot more meaningful, but also give you more depth and customization per character, right? So initially we talked about how to make the radiant chests more meaningful and kind of make that gold sync feel valuable. You guys had some great suggestions and kind of discussions that came about from that through the community and all the discussion boards and all that. We originally talked about card stat upgrades, as I talked about on Monday. That's out the window, so that's gone now.
There you go, guys.
And also kind of looking at radiant chests, right? A lot of people were saying, like, just let me buy radiant chests with gold. I want to buy it with gold. Obviously, the weird part about that is if you buy radiant chests with gold and get gold, there's a chance, depending on what you drop, that you could actually get more gold than you spent, which is just a really weird economical situation. So yeah, so in the newest round here, if you guys missed the updates, is we're going to be making radiant chests available for gold purchase.
Okay.
They will no longer be dropping gold.
Okay.
So they'll give a new kind of currency. They're going to be calling loosely essence. Okay. And you'll use that to craft loadout cards, and then the new legendary cards they'll be adding in per character that give a really strong modification focus for your build. The cards themselves will obviously still be directly craftable, so if you have enough essence, you just go and get the card you want. There's not like a crazy amount of RNG there. We're not locking it behind a chest. The chest will still drop cards if you want to get cards for characters you don't have or whatever, right? Duplicates will still give you that currency, but if you want to go get a card, you just go get it. It's the exact.
So I think a good way that we can do this is let's break down every little thing that you were talking about. It's a good segue into how I think we should talk about a little bit of each of these changes. That way we can spur questions in chat specifically about these changes today. That's kind of what we want to target. We've got Rain Day behind the scenes kind of gathering all your questions, so make sure you at Paladins Game for your best chance to get answers. So let's start with the Radiant Chest, now purchasable for gold. So this is the gold sync that everyone is looking for, and you will no longer get gold out of these chests. Okay, and so all of your duplicate cards will now be turned into essence?
Yes.
Okay, and so this means you can take your then essence and still get the cards you want targeted. So it's not all RNG out of the chest. You can actually still target with exactly cards you want to craft.
That's right.
Okay, and these legendary cards, these are kind of like the talents you were mentioning. Is that kind of the way we're going with these? So these are the legendary cards. Will these still be behind the mastery levels, or will we be crafting these?
For the you'll craft them the exact same way. So they will be. That's why we're calling them cards, legendary cards. You'll still be spending essence on them, just like other cards. They'll still drop from the radiant chest as well. So it's same acquisition. They'll just be a little bit harder to get or cost more essence to craft once you get them. Every character will start with one, right? So in your starter deck,
so you get one in the starter
you'll come
deck
with a full loadout for the starter deck, and then also one free legendary card so that you can start out. We're going to kind of pick the ones that are the easiest or part of the base character kits. They all feel very similar on patch launch, and then you'll have other options to go into. And the big thing about the legendary cards as well is they don't go in the loadout. You actually select them separately. So when you load in the match for the first time, you'll get a pop-up that says, pick your legendary, and you're like, I want to play Disengage Cassie. You select that, and then okay, now select your loadout, and you'll have a bunch of loadouts to choose from. And obviously, if you had a Disengage loadout, you'd select that one, lock that in, that's locked in for the match, and now you're playing that combination of builds. But the reason we want to kind of pull it out of the loadout is that way the loadout doesn't have to be beholden to the legendary card you're selecting, and you have a lot of variations you can pick within that, and it comes just as an addition on top of.
Awesome. So our champion's going to have a certain amount of these legendaries total per? Is everyone going to have the same amount?
Initially, for the patch launch, which, by the way, Season 1 is not OB43, that we'll be talking about a little bit later this week. They'll be following pretty shortly after. But for the Season 1 launch, every champion will have 3 legendaries to choose from, one of those being free. So the other 2 you'll have to craft or drop out of radiant chests. And then we'll be looking to add, as the system grows, maybe a 4th or 5th if there's appetite for it.
Awesome. So, guys, make sure you're saving up your gold. You can dump all that and get those legendaries right out of the gate. If you've got enough, let's go ahead and start getting into some of these questions. Will OB43 43 be the last patch before Season 1? This is asked by Dr. Yoshi Yahoo.
It's likely at this point that it will be OB44. That's tentative, of course. We're still kind of looking at that target, but that's what as it's aligning, it's looking like it's going to be 44.
Okay. Chosen One asks, how many new champions are being worked out right now? What are the plans for Season 1? Are you going to put ranks for it? Well, we'll do this one at a time. How many new champions are being worked out right now?
So our pace right now, we talked a little about this during HRX. Anytime kind of people get asked, we respond here. The pace that we're setting for Paladins is actually rather unprecedented. We've never in the history of the studio actually set this pace. So our goal is at a minimum to hit 15 champions this year, and a lot of those being back-to-back patches. So many times throughout the year, you will see a champion and then another champion release, and then we'll probably take a patch break and then look to do another back-to-back after that and just kind of keep it going. So we actually currently have 4 champions in active development currently, as well as 3 others that are in planning phase. So we have a lot of champions in the pipe, and our big goal for 2017 is just champions, champions, champions. And the big reason for that is, we want to make sure that you can build very creative team compositions. We want to make sure that if you play a specific role, you have a lot of options to choose from. So let's say you only play flank or you only play damage. You have, lots and lots and growing options to pick into that role and kind of specify that way. But also, when you're playing matches, you see different engagements, right? Because if you see a different character every game or different team comp every game, it's something new and it kind of changes all the time.
And that's what makes it fun. The meta's going to not really become super stale, I think, if we have champions just coming out all the time. I mean, 15 to 17 champions, like you said, we're doubling this year.
Yep.
That's aggressive. All right, so the next part of that question, what are the plans for Season 1? Like, are you going to put ranks for your account and not only champions? So any big changes for the ranked, specific, more incentive to play the ranked mode?
We are looking at options for account-specific ranks. We always have the rating and the leaderboards. We do want to expand out the leaderboards to be split by region and split by division and kind of have those other pieces there. So that's all in the works. It's not any close to coming to daylight right now, but we are working on it.
Okay, so that answers the next 3 questions, really. Looks like Paladins game. Huad asks, will you keep the cards that you already have and cards like Eevee's Wormhole that might be a talent? We will have the card that replaces it. So how will that work?
So we're looking at the some cards obviously feel more like the legendaries that are coming, right? Wormhole is a great example. It takes what's core to that character and adds another layer that's just really awesome and crazy and different and kind of reworks how that character functions, right? So I think Wormhole is a good example of that. So we do, when we would look through all the legendaries for each character, we would pick some of those and pull those out and make those legendaries and then create a loadout card that replaces that slot for that category. In some cases, we also want to make sure that when you're picking specific builds for each character, there is an inherent opportunity cost, right? So something like maybe for Makoa, you may want to give up your bonus damage after a hook, but since you gave that up, all of a sudden you have so much now. You paid that opportunity cost, and now you get a huge benefit because of it. Maybe you want to be really, really tanky because of it. Maybe you want to change how your shield works. Maybe your shield, you place it on the ground, you don't have to channel it anymore, right? Some crazy differences like that, but because you gave something up, in that specification, you now get other options, and that's what we're looking for.
And I feel like that's just going to help with build variation in general, because you have certain cards like Incitement on Cassie that you just have to run, right? Where if you take those out and make them legendaries, there's going to be a lot more build variation. That'll be awesome.
We don't want any cards that are compulsory, right? Nothing should be required. It all should be specified based on who you're playing and how you're playing.
Agreed. Infern Vortex asks, will there be more cool skins, not just recolors?
Yes, we actually have some really, really cool ones laid out for the year. Some of them you'll see sooner than others, and some of them are we're really excited to kind of show you.
That's one of my favorite parts about walking around, going to get lunch even. I walk by all the artists, and I just kind of like creep over their shoulders and freak them out a little bit, but I always see so many cool things in the works over there. The next question comes from Pikasar. Can you let custom cooldown games so that we can make our own mini games? So more custom match, customization, that sort of thing.
Sure, we can look at other custom match options. We are working on new modes, right? PvE just came out last patch. We're looking at survival mode as well, some more like a permadeath 5-on-5 kind of experience, and we are looking at other options as well. So that's definitely on the list, but it's not something we're looking at currently.
El Hassano asks, what is crafting? And we already talked a little bit about that, but just maybe for those of you that are joining us late, there's going to be a new crafting system largely tied to the Radiant chests.
Sure. The crafting system is only crafting because you get that currency from duplicates. Historically, when you look at the system we have in Paladins, it really is just a purchasing system, right? You are purchasing the cards in live now, but we want to make sure that you are getting a specific currency from the Radiant Chest, which allows you to build up so Radiant Chests are valuable. Obviously, you get free Radiant Chests by leveling up. You can then spend your gold to get more Radiant Chests, which gives you more of this essence. And then basically you take the currency that you've collected and you say, you know what? Torvald just came out. I got a bunch of essence. I'm going to dump all my essence on all of Torvald's legendary cards and loadout cards. I'm going to fully stack them out. And you have that option, right? Because once you have that currency, you can choose where it goes.
Exactly. So you're a new player coming in Paladins for the first time. You're getting Radiant Chests for leveling up. And you might not even need the dust. You might just get the cards that you're looking for out of the Radiant Chest. If you get duplicates, then you get dust that you can target purchase exactly what you want when you start to get those duplicate cards. But right out of the gate, you're going to be getting a lot of cards out of these Radiant Chests that you get for leveling up. You're getting gold from your wins, from your mastery bonuses that you are spending on the Radiant Chest, and you're just getting a lot. It is really, really, really good right off the start there.
And it is important to note, too, along with this, because legendary cards will be a higher rarity and a higher value with a lower drop rate, we are going to go through and kind of select a rarity for every loadout card that you have. And so some of those may be coming up a lot, and you'll be getting a lot of essence for it out of the Radiant Chest, and some of them may come in rare. In fact, if you did get like a duplicate legendary, you get a crazy amount of essence, right? That would just shoot you far because it's a little bit rare, right? Same thing goes for all the cosmetics that are still in the Radiant Chest. Those would then start giving essence instead.
Oh, wow,
so if
really?
you have all the, say you have all the emotes in the Radiant Chest, when an emote drops, you get a big boost of essence, right? So all these opportunities to get emotes and poses and recolors and all the stuff that's in the Radiant Chest, then turns those into duplicates. So that when you roll Radiant Chest, you're just getting constant essence. So the more you have, the more you get.
Okay. One thing for clarification here. So these rarities for our cards, they're not going to be tied to the level of the card in the loadout. So for instance, if I'm running Teleport on Eevee, the rarity of that could be common, but it has no implication on me putting this at level 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the deck. Okay, cool. So just for clarification there, guys, it's not going to be, the rarity of the card will just be tied to its dust value, not its actual intensity in your loadout. And Denial Share says, how much will the chest cost in gold, or can you still buy them with crystals?
Yeah, you can still buy them with crystals. Actually, we have some cool kind of updates coming in this next patch. We actually will be able to purchase chests in more bulk. And then you'll get discounts for the amount of crystals if you buy them with crystals in bulk. And this coming patch is really cool, right? So if you wanted to buy 20 Radiant Chests at once,
one
right?
by one.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing. It's been on our list for a long time, actually, since closed beta. To get that in there, it just wasn't as high of a priority as kind of getting the champions in and get ranked and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so in this coming patch, you'll be able to buy 20 Radiant Chests at once. And as you go up and up in the bulk you're buying, you start getting more and more of a discount. The gold won't be discounted, but when we're still working on the exact numbers of gold, as we're looking at the kind of the economy as a whole, right? Because obviously, since Radiant Chests give gold now, we're now factoring in the amount of gold income you would lose by those no longer giving gold, and kind of reworking that to make sure that all is copacetic and makes sense. So we don't really have an exact number yet, but the gold value will be relatively achievable. I'm pretty confident saying it'll be less than the cost of a champion, but how much we're still working on.
Jami305 asks, any test maps for Payload? And the test map queue has just been something really cool I think you guys have just put in to just get more hands on some of these maps. So anything in the works for Payload?
We're working on a Payload map. We're actually going to be removing all 5 maps that are in the test queue in this coming patch, and then adding 5 new ones in. So that whole rotation will just completely change. You'll get new maps there. So you guys are looking for more test maps to look at. We're also actively taking responses from the forum you guys are filling out at the end of every test map, talking about on the forums, and all the discussion boards, talking about how good the maps are, and then kind of handpicking those and getting those into the pipeline to start getting arted up and cleaned up and then shipped as a live map. So if you guys are playing long enough and you're kind of playing the test map, actively, it's possible that later this year you'll start seeing some of the maps that you guys voted on and talked about come to fruition and get art and start looking like a finished map.
Cool. Pixa says, can you talk about this decision to put emotes and MVP poses in the Colossal Chest?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. We actually got a large number of requests to be able to get the kind of exclusive content that's in the Radiant Chest a little bit easier, right? And so we had a couple discussions on where to put that and how to get that out there, but really it was just us responding to the idea of making those available. Obviously, the feedback that we got on the emotes and poses going into the Colossal Chest was there's some good discussions there on what people liked about it, what they didn't like about it. A lot of people said that it just kind of made the Colossal Chest harder to get the content they wanted, plushie Makoa, that kind of stuff. So we are looking at options for this patch to undo that deed and then make those available in a different way that's a little bit more direct than the Radiant chest, and then kind of get the Colossal chest back to its former self.
Newtowin says, will there be more vertical movement mechanics, no longer sliding off roofs, or are you making these preventions for balancing?
The upcoming champion, which we will talk a little bit about later this week for the patch preview, does sport some high mobility aspects, and we'll find out more about that later. And we are looking at more ways to kind of get interesting mobility in there, but also we are moving pretty quick on the champions too. So, you know, the way our schedule is set up, you guys will be getting a lot of new variations and some cool, interesting things coming. So you won't have to wait too long on that.
The Ruckus Sackman says, are there any plans on how to make Skye more relevant in the pro sector?
Skye is an interesting one too. She's actually in ranked performing pretty well, and we're actually getting some feedback from pros that kind of fits in there. My view on that is largely that she just doesn't have a great fit in the current meta, right? The way it's being played and the way it is, right? And as we start getting more and more champions coming out,
Ruckus, you guys didn't touch him whatsoever, and he was
all of a sudden he comes back,
Worlds.
right? And so we want to be careful that we're not trying to twist a character that doesn't fit in the current meta to fit the current meta, because when that meta changes, it becomes
then
less
you gotta
valuable.
Turn every character that you
That's right. And so when we introduce characters like Torvald or kind of other characters that can create different fighting spaces or project a shield from really far away to save a flanker that's in trouble, we try to introduce new characters that make those characters shine rather than trying to kind of force that character to fit in how the game is being played now, because that will change, right? The competitive scene will always rotate cyclically and morph over time.
Absolutely.
And we make sure that we have enough breadth to make new teams. And obviously, as we get new teams from other regions coming in and new ideas and new scrims being tested out, we'll see those kind of morph. And as the champion pool grows, that becomes more diverse.
Definitely there, and especially with legendaries coming out, that should shake things up.
She's got some cool
fair
ones.
Bit.
Yeah, she's got some cool ones.
Driver's got something up his sleeve for you guys. Baccarat asks,
that's why I rolled them up.
What shampoo do I use? Is a sulfate-free L'Oreal shampoo.
Nice. L'Oreal's good.
Pretty much it.
L'Oreal's good.
I'll let my girlfriend pick it for me.
Don't lie.
Sensitivity decimals anytime soon? I'm not even sure what that means exactly.
It's on the list, right? I hate those kind of questions because we really want to do it, and there's only so many.
What is sensitivity decimals?
That's being able to, so on your sensitivity for your mouse, you have to go from like 10.1 or 10.9.8.
Like really fine-tune
like 9.9, 9.8, 9.7, right? So being able to kind of tune that stuff in, right? Our range is pretty large, right? It's about 5x what a normal range is, so it's pretty close, but being able to kind of fine-tune it a little bit. And obviously, we are looking at more options for the setting menu to make it more customizable.
One thing I do in that case, just from my personal experience, I turn my DPI down a little bit, and then that kind of like, it almost makes each sensitivity tick a little bit less impactful, so you can kind of fine-tune it in that way. Just turn your DPI down and then turn your in-game sensitivity up. That might be something that could help you guys out if you're really struggling with that. Aussie Assimilator says, are champs hitboxes ever getting a rework? They are too large and do not correspond to the champs in-game models currently.
We've looked at this a few times, actually. There are pros and cons to both sides, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times when you look at some of the older military shooters, they do have a series of boxes, right? Just like the internet is a series of tubes. You have a series of boxes around the body that kind of extend out. One of the things that kind of allows us to have a wide variety of character sizes, right? If you look at Pip versus Grover versus Cassie versus Buck versus Fernando, right? It's kind of standardizing it a little bit, kind of make it fit a little bit there, and then also allowing us to have some varying ways of shooting, right? When you put a snake in the game, or a laser gun, or a lightning beam, and all kind of things. So right now, we feel it kind of fits the way the game is played. We are still researching ways to kind of bring that in and make that a little bit more kind of specific. But there are characters, if you look at it, like someone like Eevee, who's very, very thin and very lanky, right? If you matched the hit collision exactly to her body, you'd be hitting negative space constantly, right? Because if you actually look at her, the way she's standing, she's had a lot of holes where their arms are. Her legs are really thin. Her arms are really thin. Her pigtails are coming out. And so, like, you'd be shooting at her, and a lot of shots, even if you were using Andraxis or Buck or something, would just kind of perfectly go through those holes and do nothing, right? So there are a lot of downsides to either side, right? And the way how diverse our characters are and how kind of fantasy and non-standardized they are, it's harder to make it as accurate and make it still feel good, right? Because then Eevee would be impossible to hit.
A Toast Power says, are you going to change that you can ban champions in comp? So just right out of the gate with that question, that's something that we didn't want to do right away because we didn't have the pool for it. But with that aggressive champion schedule, is that something we might look for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we require you to have at least 12 champions for ranked, right? Kind of build that up. If we add bans, we have to increase that amount to make sure that mathematically, if you're in a 5v5, if you get the bans there, it starts to go up, right? And really just didn't have the test or the amount of champions for it. But as we get higher and higher in the champion count, probably around like 23, 24 is when we'll be like, all right, that's good enough. We'll throw bans in there, probably do one per team, and then see how that plays. We do want bans, right? And obviously from the esports guys, you guys want bans as well. So we want to put it in there. It's just we didn't want to put it in too soon when we only had 18 champions, and all of a sudden the pool gets too small.
Absolutely, and with things like when new champions come out, they're disabling a rank. Well, everybody kind of figures them out. It always helps. Bloodmouth Carnist asks, plans for PvP incentivization and item testing in the testing range. That's a big one.
Yes, so this patch we will have a new weekly quest coming out that will provide crystals. For the first time you go into PvE, it'll be one time only, so look for that one, guys. And PvE, the reception was great. Actually, we just swapped, if you guys didn't hear, we just swapped the PvE mode this morning. So it's not Tank It to the Limit anymore. It's actually Tortoise Power, which is 4 Makoas in a pit. So you guys want to go check out PvE today. That has been updated, so go log in after this and check it out. And we'll be rotating that every week is our plan right now. Just get a new PvE mode in there. And then further down the line, we'll look to kind of expand the PvE encounter experience to have special rewards and special engagements, and maybe scaling encounters or different difficulties and all that kind of stuff is all things we're thinking about.
Perfect. So the next question is, it's kind of got an answer there. Is there going to be more PvP modes? Yes, obviously. Dr. Yoshi Yahoo asks, can you talk about mastery skins?
So we have, as we talked about before, a very extensive list of things to add to the mastery unlock. And actually, what we're aiming for right now is to have at least one reward for almost every level between 1 to 25 on the champion list. So that includes like title unlocks, mastery skins. As we mentioned before, the art team is working really hard to kind of get a solution for mastery that works really, really well, right? They have an idea that they're working with right now that when time comes, that we'll be able to share that and talk about it. But some ways to kind of have 2 different sets of mastery skins, like a kind of a tier 1 and a tier 2, that you kind of show how mastered you are with the character and unlock those things along the way and get different variations, emotes, poses, and then also ways to increase.
Our customization system just gives so much room.
So many pieces, right?
With that.
Yeah, and then also we want to add ways to make the top play presentation cooler.
Oh, alrighty. Skull Hunter 666 asks, when will the survival mode come? That sounds like a guy that plays a lot of survival.
Skull Hunter.
Skull Hunter.
Skulls for the Skull Throne. I'm with you, man. Corn needs to be fed. It is. It's getting close. It won't be OB43, but it's getting close.
Next question comes from Nuto. When will there? Oh, we already answered that one. Is Snappy a partner of Paladins? Snappy is something that we use. That's just like a highlight thing we use for our esports broadcast, basically to post highlights on. We know
if there's any Snapple XX out there,
oh, Snapple! Snapple!
Peach tea is a great drink. It keeps me fueled.
He said Snappy.
It's where the best development comes from.
Sorry, my eyes are failing me now. Oh my goodness gracious!
I'm just gonna go ahead and Snapple, if you're out there.
This Q&A brought to you by
I'm on Twitter.
Snapple. That runs in your veins, man.
It does, yeah. No, it's completely converted. There's no blood anymore.
Golden Keela asks, will we have announcer packs?
Yes.
Absolutely, those are the best.
We actually have a couple already made that are kind of there, and we're working on getting the system built. Obviously, we would need to add ways to select things at a count level, right? Because you wouldn't be equipping them per character; you'd be equipping it for your whole account. So we need to add places in the UI to be able to select that. We have some really cool ones I'm really excited about. One that I think people would have forgotten about and not realized we did, and they're gonna be really excited that we did it. And then also one of everyone's favorite loving royalty master may have his own way to deliver his sultry voice to you in a normal match.
So one thing I noticed coming that I thought was really cool was the Face It Grandmaster thing in Smite. Do we have any plans to work with Face It in Paladins?
We'll have more information on that. It's possible, very possible.
Talking about voice chat for ranked, people are seeming like they really want to get in some of that.
Still in the works, right? And again, we mentioned it before that when we wanted to do voice chat, we wanted to make sure that it was highly integrated and highly seamless, right?
Yeah.
Like it was part of the natural experience, very easy to use. Everyone's using it, and there wasn't any barriers there. So we are still making progress on that, but we have no updates at this time.
Will there be a change to let more than 2 people in one ranked game?
Oh, to duo queue or more.
More than duo queue.
It's something that is largely can be a symptom of population, right? So if we had, as the ranked population continues to grow, we want to make sure that goes up. But obviously, we wouldn't want to allow, with the population that it is now, 4 or 5 queues, right? Because then you'd get, District 69 queuing together. Yeah. It starts to become an issue, right? But as you guys start to play more ranked, so the answer is, if you guys play a bunch of ranked constantly, then that's definitely a possibility. It's on you. Ball's in your court.
Next question comes from It's the Bad Wolf. Can we expect to see any upcoming UI changes? As an example, I'd like to have an overlay for my team's health when I play support or frontline champion to be more aware of who needs my help.
We are looking at that. I mean, obviously, support champions don't have the health bars turned on by default, and they likely should, right? So that's definitely something we're working on, but don't have a specific patch for that.
What are your thoughts on letting more than one person in the training range together?
Ooh, interesting.
Didn't we used to do that?
I feel like we
used to have that.
We did used to have that. We are also looking at a way to allow you to launch a custom match by yourself. So if you wanted to run around and look at the map and do call-outs and kind of test out scrims and stuff like that. So that's kind of similar to that vein that we are working on.
Any plans for guilds or something like that, or a quick melee attack to finish off energy? Those are not very related.
Guilds not anytime soon. That's not on our radar. It's something that we've talked about, but it's not on our radar, so I wouldn't expect that anytime soon. And the melee attack has been talked about, but there's with the champion schedule we have, and we're kind of weighing that all together to make sure that it makes sense.
What are your thoughts on a capture the flag / gauntlet or similar other type game modes?
We have looked at other game modes. Largely, they would probably fit into more of like the kind of weekly rotation style, not necessarily a core mode that people would play a lot or play every single day, right? But we are looking at other options that give you kind of that way to blow off steam. We hope Survival actually fits that role, and we're pretty excited to share that mode with you guys.
You guys have any plans for payload ranked?
Wow.
I mean, there was arena ranked back in the day.
Wow.
Wow. That was something. Payload ranked.
If I get tweeted at enough, I will start to think about it.
There you go. The Scientific Gaming Nerd asks, you had different card levels, uncommon, uncommon, rare, and legendary in the closed beta. Why do you want to go back?
So, also, Scientific Gaming Nerd, thank you so much for kind of staying with us for so long. It's always cool to see people who are here in the very original process of closed beta and alpha for Paladins, which,
absolutely,
we were going through a lot of iterations. And I think from there, we learned a lot of lessons, right? We came at a card system integration almost every possible way, way, like any kind of amalgamation of card system we tried. And from that standpoint, I think what's interesting when you look back on that is that wasn't the only variable that was changing, right? We were also changing how the champions worked and how you picked your teams and what the maps looked like and all that stuff. Definitely. So it's kind of hard to evaluate the value of that system by itself. And so looking back on it, we do want to make sure that kind of comes back. And we think now that everything is more stable, we know the map selections are there. The loadout system wasn't what it was back then. It's now a lot cleaner, right? With the points that you allot per loadout and where you put the cards. The rarity makes a lot of sense. And we think that would give a really interesting way to kind of unlock new ways to play each champion, especially with the legendary cards coming in hot.
Arotanis asks, is there any chance of the mini-map returning? That's kind of a weird one, right? Because I feel like the mini-map, back in the day, it was good because the maps were so
giant.
Big,
they were
right?
Giant.
And you would get lost, and you need to see which of the 3 capture points had spawn. Now it's kind of like there is only one. A lot of maps have a lot more verticality now, and what good is a 2D mini-map if there's 3 floors above you on
the maps are very
castle?
Very linear now, kind of driving you to the point and back. I don't know. We'll think about it.
El Hassano asks, is there going to be any more modes other than Siege in competitive? We talked about that. We answered that a little bit ago. If you tweet at HiRezDrybear enough, maybe he'll think about it.
Siege is our premier mode, right? Obviously for HRX, we had that playing. We feel that there's also, when you look at competitive modes, I know, I'm actually, number one, I'm very excited that people want to compete in all the modes, right? That means that there's enough hunger, there's enough interest to kind of see where you stand, to measure how good you are at that mode and see how you stack up.
Yeah, it's almost, that's the thing I always thought was cool about Halo competitive, where they have to run a gauntlet mode, or Call of Duty has to play a bunch of different game modes in competitive, so you can't be just that one trick pony. So maybe down the line, if you guys want it bad enough, HiRezDrybear always will provide.
But Siege is our premier mode. It has the most depth. It has the most counterplay potential. It has the most ways for teams to come at each other, and obviously makes the most interesting, but also the most viable competitive mode when there are a lot of facets to get your fingers into.
Pete the Noob asks, I would like to see the chickens be able to hit for 20 per pack. What does that even mean?
Being able to melee when you're a chicken. This has been brought up a lot actually internally.
20 per peck.
Yeah, so like you can go out and peck people as a chicken. Yeah, it's been brought up. We've kind of looked at that. I wouldn't expect that soon, but
that's a top play right there.
It's not a 0% chance.
Nothing is ever a 0% chance.
No, it's not.
At HiRez Studios.
Nope.
Manuel asks, will Maeve come out in OB43? Who's that?
Yes.
That's a hard yes. There we go. Hobo Jesus asks, any plans to make it so movement speed stacks between cards and items? It makes certain cards like Shaolin's Wanderlust useless unless you want to buy Nimble in-game.
So yeah, just to get a little background onto that question. So for those who don't know, our movement speed in the game is strongest wins, which means that whichever the strongest application is, that's the one that takes over, and the rest don't apply anymore. The reason we do that is that that way you're not kind of buying a lot of movement speed back to back to back and getting really high values, right? Because that's kind of important to do that. And that also means that like when you get a big sprint, you'll overtake it. Right? Usually, the shorter the duration, the higher the value. If it's permanent or persistent, like Nimble, it's a lot smaller, right? So like those kind of pieces there. But I would encourage you that, because that system exists, to kind of explore different build options with the items and the loadouts and different abilities to make sure that all balances out, right? Because there's a hard cap of 60% reload speed, so you don't want to, buy max deft hands and then buy max reload, right?
I didn't know that.
So you got to make sure that you're kind of balancing that out.
I was in there and tank it to the limit with your sky loadout, pumping up poison bullets and trying to reload as fast as I could.
Yep.
Pixa asks, any chance to get a rework on the burn cards / items?
So we are looking at the items themselves and how to make those better, right? Obviously, we used to have one called aggression, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the thing. We removed it temporarily to see how that works and how that builds out. We are looking also at those rows to make sure those are more interesting and valuable. We do want to make sure those counters exist, right? So that someone can't stack a 5 heal comp or a 5 tank comp with shields and just run that. You want to have natural predators that you can opt into. But we are still looking at the item tree to make it that much more better. That's right.
We have respond to us Brazilians. Will we have dubbing in PTBR? Hugs from Brazil. They want to dub the game in Portuguese.
We are looking at that. I don't really have any information on that right now, fortunately.
Awesome.
But I love you too. Hugs.
Hugs for Brazil. Brazil, very passionate. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much. Boro Beast asks, can you add a key binding to automatically buy an item when you hover and click it? Example, Haven, you press X and it automatically buys the items instead of going with the mouse and click the price box.
That'd be good. We should do that. That's a good idea. We'll do that.
As soon as you put that in, people are going to complain that they misbought items. You know?
And then we'll undo it. And then do it and then undo it. And then do it and then undo it.
We live to serve.
Undo button would be cool, right?
Koslava asks, are there plans to bring more sprays to champs, seeming that Makoa doesn't?
Yeah, more sprays coming. Always more sprays. We'll have more sprays. As long as you guys want sprays, we'll have sprays coming all the time for the rest of the time.
Naron the Rabbit asks, can we get a message or some sort of notification when someone gets banned if we reported them?
Yes, that's a good idea. We should do that.
Awesome. It's so easy.
Right?
Asking,
simple.
you shall
just
receive.
Promising for the entire team to do work.
I don't even know how to say that. Blingo Novik asks, can you give me a reply? Will you guys release any other champions except Maeve on this new update?
Now, we'll be doing champion patches back to back, but I don't think we'll ever do a double champion patch unless we do a champion that's 2 champions.
Cho'Gall up in here?
That'd be cool. Do that.
Getting a little Cho'Gall action?
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
That would be funny.
Don't get me started.
High Noon Official asks, can you make Sky's smoke bomb like old Kinessa Transporter? You place the first smoke, and the second smoke would take you back to the first.
No, is the short answer. Like I said earlier, we're not looking to try to shoehorn existing champions that don't fit in the meta into this current meta, because it will shift. And as new champions come out, they'll allow different metas to go in there. We are looking at some characters for potential reworks of their abilities. Smoke Bomb is not on it. I think Smoke Screen is very powerful when it's used properly. An example of abilities that we're looking at are like Grok Ultimate or Androxus Right Click, and then also maybe some changes to like Drogo Salvo. The abilities that feel like they are relatively hard to find a use for, or just don't have the impact that compares to other characters. So those kind of things we are looking at either tweaking or reworking at some point in the future, but Smokescreen is not on that list.
Any news for a rare/epic skin for Sky? She needs some love.
That is too good. That is too good. I'm not going to say anything else, but if you listen to that statement, and then look at your calendar.
That's weird.
If you look at your calendar and listen to that statement, and you're a coy individual, I think you'll figure out what's happening.
Oh man, that guy.
That I don't think that could have gone any more perfect. That was awesome. Thank you, Internet, for being awesome.
Oh, Desolero. In a distant future, would all roles have the same amount of champions?
No. No. If you look at kind of proper team comp building, generally you need just like at a philosophical level, right? You need more options for damage and flank than you do for frontline and support, largely because you don't need a team of 3 or 4 supports, right? You do need at least one frontline, at least one support. Sometimes you double up on those, sometimes 2 frontlines, 2 supports, but you do fill those holes with more damage and flank. So largely at a very simplistic level, right? This is not saying what our calendar schedule is, but largely you will probably see a slightly higher amount of damage and flank than you will of the other 2 roles. It doesn't mean we're not going to fill out the roles, right? We're going to fill all the roles as often as we can and make sure it's balanced, right? We're not going to do, 10 damage in a row. We're not going to do 10 frontline in a row. We're going to keep it balanced, but you probably will see more in those roles because they fill more slots.
That makes sense. The perks of being Nino asks, will cards alter ultimates? So I assume he means the legendary cards.
Yeah, currently none of them do. It's not off the table, though. I think where it makes sense. Actually, that's not true. We just made one yesterday that does.
There you go. Ask and you shall receive. Bread with Dog asks, any plans to split head cosmetics to face and head instead?
No. So the face is part of the body, right? And just at like a very, I guess, more Lego man description. And if you guys corner HiRez Holt on Twitter or something, he can explain a little bit better than me. But largely it's because the skin part is part of the body, because you wouldn't want to have like a green face and then like a white or blue chest, right? Because it is attached to the body. It can't be separate, because then always you have this weird kind of separation, right? So the actual dermis, the epidermis is coming out, the actual piece of the skin that comprises the character is part of the body. And then the head slot is actually the head accessory slot. So hair, sunglasses, headsets, whatever else, that's what goes on the head, but it doesn't make the head. That's part of the body.
Gotcha. So that's why Tyra has things like her little her war paints change colors.
That's right.
That's why those can function like that. SJP asks, why RNG spread for shotguns as opposed to a static one?
Besides
that just being the nature of
there
how
are
a shotgun
pros to
works.
both, right?
Yeah.
If you look back historically on many FPS games, some of them are, there are games where literally it's just like a diamond shape, right? There's like kind of pieces there. Actually, Tribes Ascend had that in some of their shotguns, one of our FPSs we made. And then some of them are random. And based on the way our shotguns work, where it kind of adds up a total of hits and then does a value and then does headshots based on the amount of hits there, and also leads the first shot to be a little bit heavier, so you don't need, like if you hit for once, it's not 20 damage, right?
Yeah.
The way our shotguns function actually lends itself better to RNG, because we're being so forgiving with the way it hits. But you can go both ways. We just went with the RNG version because we feel that when we put the systems on top of it, feels better.
Sure. Quilon Nairo asks, would you consider to allow transforming unwanted cards into essence? I mean, like the cards for champions you are not interested in, you might want to transform them and then go towards the play times roll. So like, do you have to own every single card in the game? Where you'll be able to be like, I have teleport, but I don't play Eevee. Can I just disenchant this into essence, or do you have to own teleport?
We are actually talking about that right now. We're going to make it so, just so it's not cumbersome, that when you get a duplicate out of a Radiant chest, you'll just turn it right into Essence, right? You don't have to have a stockpile of duplicates that do nothing for you and then go manually do it.
Yeah.
We're talking about whether we should go with making you keep it or letting you disenchant it. So actually right now, since this is a live Q&A, just to prove it, if you guys want us to allow you to disenchant if you have one of a card that is unique but you don't want to use it anymore, say Chicken Noodle in chat. And if you want us to make it so you have to keep it and you can't get rid of unwanted cards, say Dragon Breath.
There goes all the good questions in chat. They were just filled with chicken noodles and dragon breath.
Chicken noodles and dragon breath.
Disenchant.
Not follow the rules, man. I want to see some chicken noodles or some dragon breaths.
Disenchant. It's chicken noodle for disenchant, right? What was it one more time?
Chicken noodle for disenchant.
Chicken noodle for disenchant
Unwanted
automatically?
cards. And then, no, for like you can actually get rid of it and you won't have that card anymore.
Get rid of it forever.
Right, you kill that card. And dragon breath, if you want to make sure that you have all the cards, you can't get rid of any.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of chicken
It's
noodle.
a lot of chicken noodles, man.
I don't know if people just like typing
There's
chicken
a
noodle
dragon breath. No, it's back to chicken noodle. Chicken breath. There's no chicken breath. No.
Chicken breath. Evan, what have you done?
Looks like a good amount of chicken. All right.
Chicken noodle, chicken noodle.
I see a lot of chicken noodles. I'll take that under consideration.
So, I can just see you going to the next meeting. All right, guys. Chicken noodle.
We're doing chicken noodle.
And then you walk out.
And the weird part is that won't be strange to anyone that works with me.
All right,
they'll be like,
noodle.
oh, okay, so he decided on chicken noodle. Great. Okay.
There it is.
Yep.
Supercent says, when are you fixing Andro reversal?
Fixing, there's a couple things there. I'm assuming he means shots going through it.
Okay.
Which it functions just like shield, and obviously when you have a high ping environment, sometimes where the server thinks your shield is and where your shield actually is can be different on your screen. That's just purely just a lag issue. We are looking at solutions for that, but I will kind of mention that it is a very complex problem. It's very, very difficult to solve, and we have some really just mind-blowingly brilliant engineers and programmers working on that solution now. It's just not something that has like, oh yeah, you just turn that switch up and pull this wire and it's done, right? It's actually a very, very difficult problem in a high lag environment to solve that.
We had a question. Will you ever consider limiting the disparity in rating between two players that are allowed to queue for ranked together?
As in, do you guys want it to be bigger?
I don't know.
Like you want to, like if you're like a million times better than your friend, like if you're a chicken noodle and he's a dragon breath, you want to queue together? Is that the question?
I assume that they probably mean they want it to be smaller.
Smaller. Okay.
Smaller.
Okay. Those kind of very very different. Whatever the first one is, I'll just do it.
That just makes it harder for the matchmaker to do its job, right? When you have lazy queuing
when it's bigger, yes.
with you.
Usually we do about a plus or minus on a division, right? So like a platinum can queue with a diamond, but can't queue with a masters, that kind of thing. Which is about what it is now, even though we do kind of have a split on rating numbers there.
Awesome. Does Torvald have any relationship with Sky or Ying?
It's
like a I'm gonna assume a wholesome like grandfatherly.
Yeah, no, he's got the kind of encapsulation. I got that kind of treatment.
Right?
Yes, they're all elves. Speaking of which, this has been asked a lot, obviously, since I was accused of skillfully and elegantly dodging questions. We are working actively on lore.
You're going to headbutt this one.
It is, again, just right in the face, right? It's what the forehead's for, right? If I got a forehead, I may as well use it. We're actually making some decent progress. Our goal is to have lore out this year, and we're kind of working on from the foundation up, right? Like, what is the world? Okay, so who lives in it? Okay, how do they know each other? Okay, what's the conflict, right? We want to make sure that that foundation is there. And both the design team, myself, the management, and our teams are all kind of working together with a writer to kind of get all that built together. So it's coming, but we just want to make sure that it's really fits together and brings what exists in Paladins all together. So like, the question of like, who is Bomb King and where does he come from, right? Those kind of things we want to solve and come out and then start doing comics and videos and reveals and all that kind of stuff, right? It's something that we're working actively on and we want to have it out this year. So it's coming.
Somebody wants to know if they will ever be able to quench Tyra's firebomb with Sky's smoke bomb.
I mean, because like the smoke wouldn't do it, right? I guess it would be like the impulse of the exploding
fire
smoke bomb.
Extinguisher bomb.
Because we have like the kinetic energy pushing through it might actually extinguish the flames, but smoke itself won't actually.
You thought about this a lot more than I thought you were going to.
A lot of weird things.
You either just like give me some like snarky troll answer immediately, or like scientific breakdown.
Or it's like too elaborate for it to be on the spot, right? Like, there's no way he just thought of that. I would say Eevee Ultimate maybe. Like if you shot the Ice Storm out because it kind of
that makes sense.
Yeah. a little more.
That makes dude. Here we go. Too soon. Why does Bomb King growl in the promo video? That's actually it's the Chinese promo video, and things are just different over there. But I love it. That's like my favorite.
Have you
thing
heard the phrase? You can be whatever you want to be. Someone told that to Bomb King.
B-O-M King.
Yeah, someone told that to him. He's like, you know what? I'm a bear. He got killed by Tyra, and he's like, okay, fine.
I mean, it kind of works. It would work if he wasn't. If we didn't know he was so jovial. If that was the first time you ever saw Bomb King, I think it could work. The roar.
He actually ate one of the bombs.
There you go.
It looked like it was aggressive, but it really was just gas.
Scoo Billy asks, any plans on community maps?
Community maps. Well, that's kind of what the test maps are for, right?
Yeah.
We're making iterations based on your feedback and kind of suggestions there and kind of changing those over time and pushing those through. So please continue playing the test queue. Please continue giving feedback. Please continue filling out those forms. And then we'll keep making more things.
Calc670 asks, can we have a new healer with a weapon who heal?
So that's a good question. Just to kind of squash that, similar to how our front lines,
I see what you're saying.
How our front lines and supports work now.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at most team comp based games, one thing we set out to do with Paladins, which I hope you guys enjoy as much as we do, we wanted to make sure that the roles didn't get kind of pigeonholed into exactly what they do, right? When you're playing a front line, you're not just the guy that's supposed to go up there and just like shell shock, hold up a shield, and hope things go the way you want them to, right? We want to make sure that the front lines still have a way to engage in the battle, deal damage, have kind of team sit on Kinesses, right? Thank you for that, by the way. So like have other options. Like your primary role is still to do that role, like protect or heal, but we want to make sure that that's not all you do, right?
Yeah.
So like each role feels rich and meaningful, and you have a lot of options, but also because we have the loadout system and the coming legendary system and the item system and the economy, we also want to make sure that you, like, if you only healed when you picked loadouts and legendaries, you would only be able to modify that rather than saying, well, I kind of want to play damaging this game, or maybe I want to play flank hybrid pip this game, right? And then the system that augments that allows you to do that. So the short answer is we have no plans currently to make a character where their unending, no limit left-hand fire, like main attack, is just to follow someone and link a beam to their butt and just hope that they love you, right?
Stay alive.
That's just not.
And protect you.
When you look at like things like Grok or Ying, like we all have options to heal.
Strong, independent healers. That's right. Look after themselves.
That's right. It's part of like a team group orient, but it's not your only thing, right? So we likely won't have one like that, but we will be introducing new ways to heal and new ways to kind of play it on that. Like Maldom's an example, right? That kind of came out and that shifted how support role was. He still heals, but he has other options. We want to play on that, but we'll likely never make a character that's just follows you around and doesn't do anything else, right? Because we feel that there are better ways to do that.
Because that's not fun. Anubis Schiffer asks, why are they called champions if the name of the game is Paladins?
Well, wait for lore.
There you go. Totally Not Stewie asks, can you make it so that you can sell your items and be able to buy something else on that row of items? It would spice things right up. Much love from Sweden.
I was in Sweden for DreamHack. It's a great place.
Fair enough.
Yes, potentially. It won't be for a full resell, right? If we ever add an undo or a sell button, it would be probably for half the price. But we could look at options for that. It's a cool idea.
Epiphibius. There we go. Any chance of having an Androxus talent that lets him project reversal around him in a bubble?
We actually talked about that, interestingly enough, a 360-degree reversal.
Nice.
Yeah, we elected against it.
I mean, that's
for now. Things change, right? That could be whatever, but yeah.
Any plans to nerf Drogo's spit or bring back his old speed? That comes from Tomato.
You know what would be a great legendary card?
What?
The old speed, but more. Wouldn't you want to be like jet plane Drogos again?
I do miss those days.
That could be a great legendary card. I hope we did that. We actually did that. We did that.
He done did it. That one's for you, Bugsy. Possibility to sell an item if you do not leave the spawn. That one's, I think, a little bit more reasonable for my mixed.
Yeah, we could do that.
Do you consider adding burn cards? I didn't catch the end of that before it flew off screen. Can we get a setting in custom games to automatically record the match replay so we don't need spectators?
Yeah, we could do that.
Is there anything you can't do, Driver? That's my question to you.
Plenty of things, actually.
Oh, man. So we'll take a couple more here. We got about 10 minutes left. We're going to cut this off at around 3 o'clock. So you said there was a cap on reload speed. Is there any other soft caps like for cooldown reduction?
Cooldown, I believe, is 50%, so you can't go over half reduction on the cooldown. So if it's a 10-second cooldown, it can't go lower than 5, right? So, and these are just there, right, to make sure that you, I mean, obviously 100% cooldown reduction would just be weird. 100% reload would be weird, right?
Yeah.
That means you just don't reload at all, right? You're just
reload.
going like this, right? So there are caps in there, and there are also diminishing returns, like for things like movement speed, damage reduction, right? You can't, in order to get like 100% damage reduction, it would take an inordinate amount of damage reduction stacking up, right? So if you just, like if you got Repulsor Field and a couple others, and it added up to 100, it actually wouldn't be 100 because there are breakpoints that you get diminishing values of damage reduction as it goes up, so that, you know, you could maybe get up to 70% or 80%, but getting to like damage immune is almost impossible.
Yeah. What's the deal with the Androxus and Victor skins?
The console skins.
They're console skins?
They're cleverly but not so cleverly named, right? So those are obviously there for console linking, and we'll have more information as we get close. We're obviously getting closer. We talked a little bit about HRX. We talked a little bit about it on the last patch notes. We're getting further and further along. For those of you who are in the closed beta for console, thank you so much for giving feedback and kind of talking about that. And if you're still waiting, the wait is coming to a close.
What is the life rip cap?
There is none.
That one's over. That's one that's not really supplemented with cards that gets super high or out of control anyway, and it's very expensive until last patch. I use 20% speed bonus on Sha Lin's deck, but it doesn't. We already talked about that a little bit. There is kind of that cap, so you can't buy too much.
Strongest wins.
Into strongest wins system is in place there. So questions are starting to repeat themselves and slow down a little bit, so I think that's a good spot for us to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for coming out, Drybear. Thanks for stepping under the gun once again with this live Q&A. My name has been HiRezPrettyHair, and this is HiRezDrybear. Of course, thank you once again. Patch notes will be on Friday. We just had a tweet go out. I just want to mention this real quick about the signups for the ESL tournaments is now up and live. So if you're interested in getting involved in competitive Paladins, that is a no better place to start than these ESL tournaments that will be taking place tomorrow. So go ahead and get yourself signed up. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today, and we'll see you soon.